Chicago Johnny's, Josh Downey, author of the Chicago Pizza Cookbook. It's available on Amazon on the link below or at chicagojohnnies.com. Today we just made some Uncle Pepper's Crispy Chicago dough. New stuff is right here. And it's a very low hydration dough if you're unfamiliar with Chicago dough. Low hydration, short gluten strands. Real crispy crust is what we're going for. And this is what it looks like when you first make it. This is about 10 minutes ago. And then leave it out on the counter 4 to 8 hours. Knock it down, refrigerate it. And then it comes out and it looks more like the dough you're probably more familiar with. So this one is aged 3 days. Get it in a container so it doesn't dry out. We got to grate some mozzarella real quick. I'm trying to get the live so I can see it on my laptop so I can answer some questions you guys may have. So this is just whole milk, low moisture mozzarella, Galbani brand. A bunch of brands make it. If you can avoid the part skim, then I suggest avoiding part skim. If you get the whole milk, get that. Make sure it's low moisture though. There's 2 whole milk mozzarellas. One is low moisture, which we're using. One is more like that fresh mozzarella, and that is going to ooze all over your oven, and it's going to be a pain in the ass. Where is... Oh, here we go. Go up a little bit. Let's see how that looks. It's a little better. All right, we're good. Although I cannot hear me. Is there any audio? Can you guys hear me? Is there audio? Is there any audio? Oh, you guys can hear me. All right. So we're rolling. Oh, you want to go outside, buddy? Let my dog out real quick. Yeah, go say go, buddy. All right, so I'm author of the Chicago Pizza Cookbook, Josh Downey. I own a company called Chicago Johnny's. We make candied jalapenos. We make giardiniera and olive oil. We make perfect pizza seasoning, Italian beef gravy seasoning, and then the giardiniera. And then we use olive oil in our giardiniera. Believe it or not, most are not olive oil, but it's up to you. It's a preference thing. I prefer the olive oil. And then we season the heck out of it. You can see how red the oil is. Normal oil in giardiniera is kind of clear or cloudy. This is just very highly seasoned oil. So we made a little bit ago Uncle Pepper's Crispy Chicago Dough. Recipe in the book. I think it's the first recipe. It's 2 grams of salt, 1 gram of yeast, 10 grams of butter or whatever fat you choose to use, 61 grams of water or whatever hydration you choose to use, and then 140 grams of flour. We use Sarasota, so it's a very Chicago style dough. It's Sarasota flour, which is very common, and butter, which is a very common fat. You will mostly find butter or corn oil as your fats. All right, so I made that. Trying to adjust this angle just a touch so you can see my face a little better. There we go. So that should be better. So I'm Josh Downey, author of the Chicago Pizza Cookbook, available on Amazon in the link below, or go to chicagojohnnies.com, JOHNNYS. You can pick up a copy. You can download a PDF version if you want to print it yourself. You go to Amazon, there's paperback, there's hardcover, and then there is the Kindle version. So we already made Uncle Pepper's Crispy Chicago Dough. We will get some flour out on the table. When I roll out the dough, I like to use just all-purpose flour. And then we'll use, what we got here, semolina or breadcrumbs underneath to keep it from sticking to the peel. If you're unfamiliar with Chicago-style dough, it's very crispy. It's got a beautiful scent to it. We're going to use, it's about 207 grams of dough for a 12-inch thin crust. And if you go a little bigger, you can trim it down. And as we're rolling, we want to go center out. It's really cold in here, so this dough is going to want to shrink back, even though it's been resting on the counter 3 or 4 hours now. It is friggin' cold out here. So just keep rolling as much as you have to until you get to about a 12-inch circle. And then you can trim it back if you want, like I said, or I'll go a little more than 12. It's fine. But because it's so cold in here, we're getting a lot of snapback where it's pulling in. So we might get a little shrinkage when we bake it, because the gluten's not fully relaxed. It's causing it to tense up a little bit, you know, shrinking. Getting close. You can see how thin you roll it. Like I can see the light through here. I don't know if you can. Now we got the oven has been on for well over an hour at 500 degrees. And then if you pick up a copy of the book, I'll show you how to set up the oven for thin crust and for deep dish. So we have it set up for thin crust. It's about as good as we're going to get it in this temperature, I believe. One thing you want to make sure when you're rolling it out by hand, because we go real thin, is make it as consistent thickness as possible the whole way around. If you have, a thicker middle or thicker edges, it has a tendency to curl in the oven. And we want to prevent that. It's pretty good there. Where is my cardboard? Back here. Easiest way to do it is just take a pizza cutter. And I go a little bit bigger than the 12-inch circle. Because like I said, it's very cold. The gluten's not fully relaxed. I do expect a little bit of shrink back. And then this scrap, I will just add it to today's make for when I make pizza later. All right, so we have our 12-inch circle. Beautiful. We're going to dock it and center out again. Docking's a preference thing. I like to. Some people don't. Come on, buddy, you want a treat? If you're starting out making pizza, I prefer a wood peel. It gives you a little bit more time to play with the dough before it starts to stick. These are just breadcrumbs. I had some extra Toronto. So I let it go stale, baked it off, ground it up, made breadcrumbs. So we just dusted the peel with some breadcrumbs. We'll take our docked dough. It's very thin. Lay that out. And every now and again, I give it a shake. Make sure you're staying loose on this peel. Oh, what do we got for some bandages? Trying to burn through stuff in my cabinets. So we're going to use Hunt's crushed tomatoes. You can get any brand crushed tomatoes you want. Dave Fratelli is good. And if you go to the links in the website, there's a link on Walmart and on Amazon where you can get Stanislaus 7-Eleven ground tomatoes. Those are fantastic. And I go through this in the book, but very much seems like domestic tomatoes grown in California, far better quality than the stuff we're getting imported for whatever reason. So Stanislaus ground, fantastic. And then a lot of people will add sugar to their sauce out here. For Chicago thin crust, I am not a fan of that. I like just getting real bright, slightly acidic tomatoes, crushed. I'm kind of letting that speak for itself. So we're going to spread the crushed tomatoes pretty close to the edge, about a 1/4 inch away from the edge. If you're unfamiliar with Chicago thin crust, it's the kind of stuff you see in cut in squares. Whether you agree with it or not. That's good. So this is slightly heavy. This is probably about 95 to 100 grams. For a 12-inch real thin crust like this is. I usually prefer like 80, 85 grams. But who cares? I'm making Chicago thin crust pizza. I wrote a cookbook called the Chicago Pizza Cookbook. And this is Uncle Pepper's crispy Chicago dough recipe. And so far we rolled the dough out. We docked it. We dusted the peel with some breadcrumbs. You could use cornmeal, breadcrumbs, semolina flour, whatever you prefer. Now I'm taking some Romano. You could use any sharp cheese. Parmesan's very common in most parts of the country, but out here Romano is our preferred cheese for sharp cheese. There we go. And then we'll do some Italian sausage. This I just doctored up with a little bit of crushed red pepper and fennel. And you take it raw, and you put it in little pieces all around the pizza. And because we're going to be baking this for probably about 12 minutes, we'll see how it comes out. The stone is excessively hot, so this one will probably, because I haven't baked anything yet. This one might only take 10 or 11 minutes. But it's in there long enough for the raw sausage to cook. You know, cooked sausage is the thing most places. Raw sausage is what we go for out here. Wash my hands real quick. If you are looking to make Chicago style pizzas, there's some recipes out there. I have a recipe that's made for no stones, no pizza stone. I made for a customer of mine. Didn't want to use the stone. You can lift it. So he asked me to come up with a recipe that didn't use the stone, so I did that. That's online. All the other ones are in the Chicago Pizza Cookbook. A bunch of tips, tricks, recipes, experiments I've had. It's pretty in-depth. Pretty in-depth. So we rolled out the thin crust, added our crushed tomatoes, Romano, sharp cheese, Italian sausage. Let's do, I don't have any green bell peppers, so we do red bell peppers. Actually, I'll put these on top, so they'll look nice. We'll do onion. So this is just yellow onion diced. Use yellow onion, white onion. I prefer the slightly subtler yellow onion most of the time. But this time I just picked it because that's what I had. Waste not, want not. I got some jalapenos. We'll give our peel a shake. Make sure we're still loose with that pizza. And then we'll do some provolone. This is deli provolone. This isn't the sharp provolone that you get out of like the cold case. This is comes in a big round log. You get it behind the deli. I like mixing most of the time some half provolone and then half whole milk mozzarella. Low moisture, of course. Very careful about that. If you don't get the low moisture version of mozzarella, it will just ooze out all over your oven and you will have a mess. So make sure it's low moisture. All right, now we can add our red bell peppers. These are diced. You could dice them, slice them. I just had a little bit of pepper here, so I just diced it by hand. Normally I'd run it through a mandolin, but I was doing a bunch of pizzas. Save a little bit of your wrist work. for your psoriatic arthritis, you know. All right, so then we put some perfect pizza seasoning in. This is one of my products, Chicago Johnny's Perfect Pizza Seasoning. It's on Amazon. It's on chicagojohnny's.com, walmart.com. You can get, if you're local, you can get my olive oil jardiniere and my cherry bourbon barbecue sauce at Jewel Osco. Pretty much all locations. And then this is an optional topping. So the classic Chicago combo is Italian sausage, bell pepper, and onion. And then some people prefer some mushrooms on there. I'm going to make a loaded pizza here because this stone is going to be brutally hot. I haven't baked anything in it yet. And the first pizza always goes on hot, hot, hot. So we should be okay loading this guy up. One thing you want to be conscious of when you're doing pizzas is your moisture content in your toppings. Obviously mushrooms, high moisture, onions, bell peppers, and then now I'm going to do spinach, which is sauteed in Chardonnay and butter, a little bit of granulated garlic, and some salt. So this would be considered loaded. For sure, a loaded pizza. I'd say it stands about 1.25 inches tall at height, which is pretty much a lot because the dough itself is about the thickness of a quarter. Roll out the dough real thin. Dock it. We dusted the peel with some breadcrumbs. We added crushed tomatoes, raw Italian sausage, Romano cheese, and then we did half provolone, half mozzarella. You can use all whole milk mozzarella if you want to, low moisture though, for sure. You want to make sure you're loose on the peel at all times so you can come off into the oven. I'll set our timer for 10 minutes. Like I said, this is the first pizza going in. So this stone is going to be brutally hot. It's been warming up for an hour and a half now. So we're in. We'll keep that in about 10 minutes. Any questions on how to make Chicago pizza? What's the difference? Where are you at in your journey in making pizza? This is a great overall book. A lot of in-depth information about experiments, salt content, fat content, types of flour, how to build a deep dish, what you put on a deep dish, what you shouldn't put on a deep dish, what you put on a thin crust, what you don't put on a thin crust, toppings that go on the cheese, toppings that go under the cheese, some stories, pictures, some artwork by Jason Newman out of Woodstock. Techniques, cured crust, thin crust, deep dish, whole wheat semolina recipe. It's very earthy, dark flavors. One of my favorite recipes that I have. So you can get this on Amazon, the link below. You can get this at chicagojohnny's.com. Whatever you want. Smells fantastic. It smells ridiculous. I have the light on in the oven so I can check it. So when you set up, or when I set up the oven for thin crust, I put a stone on the bottom, and then I take a second stone, I put it on the very top. And that way when we're baking, if we're running into issues where the bottom is cooking too fast and the top is not, especially with this pizza, it's got a lot of high moisture toppings, so it's likely to have some moisture issues. We can move it to the top stone, and while it's on the top stone, it'll dry out the toppings a little bit. as opposed to just cooking the bottom and then the top's not as well cooked. Kind of think of it like broiling, I guess. You're gonna broil something to crisp it up or cook the top of it. What do we got here? Anybody still there? All right, I am going to switch over to Facebook. Thank you for joining. I appreciate it. And keep an eye out for me.